face tattoos are getting popular. Maybe I shouldn't have disowned my son because he got a face tattoo. I'm going to give him a call. Or you're the son and you disowned your parents because your parents got face tattoos. And so you say, I'm going to give my parents a call. Bridges are used in a very interesting way to talk about relationships. So we're not talking about a physical bridge here, although using it this way in relation to relationships, we're referencing the idea of a bridge. What does a bridge do? Well, here you have a thing, and here you have some water, and here's another thing, and the bridge is what connects them together, right? So the bridge is, well, that's not a bad bridge there for a quick drawing. Not too bad. So the idea of a bridge is linking together here and here. And when we talk about our relationships, there are three things that we say that all of them use bridges. And it's very simple, but I think it's really important to know because it's kind of three different stages. And I don't want you to get confused when you hear this. We say burning, building, and mending. And after each one, it's always the same. Burning bridges, building bridges, mending bridges. And I feel like this is in the wrong order. So let's imagine that I wrote building first. Building bridges, burning bridges, mending bridges. Now, what does each of these mean? You don't need to know anything more about the phrasing. That's it. Okay? I believe in building bridges. I believe in burning bridges. I believe in mending bridges. You could say those as correct sentences. I think the I believe in burning bridges does make you a bit of a psycho, but you could say it and it is correct. So building bridges simply means I believe that, if I say I believe in building bridges, I believe that connecting with people, especially people I may not agree with, is important. We don't talk about common relationships as building bridges, like your best friend or your family members. I build bridges with all of my family members and my best friends. No, that's different. Usually, we're using this when you're talking about someone you wouldn't normally connect with, you wouldn't normally communicate with, in a time that is very politicized, where everyone is fighting and people are on extreme sides of right and left. It's all the more important to build bridges. So this might be two people who have completely opposite viewpoints. Maybe in America we have the Democrats and the Republicans, and they're always fighting about everything, right? So you have a Democrat who hates most Republican views, and you have a Republican who hates most Democratic views, and they agree on something. They decide to work together on an infrastructure thing, building bridges. They decide to work together on something. So they're building bridges there. So you see the difference between just a regular, hey, you're my buddy, or you're my friend or family member, and reaching out to someone to make a connection, to do something, to create a relationship when normally you wouldn't, okay? That is building bridges. Whether you believe in it, or you emphasize it, or you don't believe in it, or you think that's a bad idea, that's the activity you're talking about when you say building bridges. Now, what about burning bridges? Well, I think now that we understand building bridges, it's fairly obvious. Now, the common expression is, don't burn your bridges. And often you have your in the middle. Don't burn your bridges. Now, this is used a little bit more than simply to connect with people you wouldn't normally connect with. This is to sever or break connections that you may not have to sever or break. And it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I built the bridge and now I'm burning it. It just means I'm going to break this relationship or end it in a way that makes the other person never want to speak to me again or hate me or something like that. I'll give you a perfect example. You are going to quit your job. Instead of saying, I'm going to put in my 2 weeks notice and I'm going to work extra hard during those 2 weeks and make sure all my relationships are good and everything like that. Instead of doing that, you quit suddenly, no 2 weeks notice. You give everyone the middle finger as you're walking out the door, and you throw a tomato at your boss right before you leave the building. you yell as you're driving away. That would be burning bridges, right? So this is someone who, whether it's your friends or your boss or anyone you know, when the relationship needs to end or the collaboration needs to end or something needs to end, you do it in a way that will not allow you to connect again in the future. So, okay, you cannot ask that boss for a reference letter in the future, right? You cannot use that boss as your referral in the future, because if an employer who you're interviewing with wants to talk to that boss is going to say, oh yeah, he threw a tomato at me and told me to F off as he was walking out the door. He's a terrible person. So that, okay, bridges burn. If you say, oh, he or she tends to burn bridges, that means they have a volatile personality. They have that sort of personality where they can't just let things go. They have to make it a big explosion that ends in hurt feelings and anger, right? Okay, so maybe you're that type of person for a few years, and then after you take mushrooms and have a spiritual experience, you realize, I've been burning bridges my whole life. I don't know how to maintain my relationships or at least stay on good terms with people after relationships end. My ex-girlfriends or boyfriends all hate me because I burn bridges. Well, I've had this spiritual awakening and now I'm going to make amends. I'm going to mend my bridges. So to mend bridges would be when you've had a bad breakup or a bad relationship ending or a huge argument with a family member, or you disowned your son because he got a tattoo on his face or something like that, right? After a few years you realize, yeah, you know what? Face tattoos are getting popular. Maybe I shouldn't have disowned my son because he got a face tattoo. I'm going to give him a call. Or you're the son and you disowned your parents because your parents got face tattoos. And so you say, I'm going to give my parents a call. I accept you for getting your face tattoos. I'm sorry that I disowned you and said I would never speak to you again. Let's get together and let's mend bridges. So to mend bridges would be to fix broken relationships or connections. All of these are bridges, different types of things. Again, each one has its own specific usage or way that it's used. I think the key thing is to pay attention, listen out for these phrases, these three: build, mend, and burn bridges. And when you hear them, make sure you pay attention to the context. Once you get the context, you'll start to feel comfortable with how you can use them. All three of these are actually extremely common. If you have any questions about these, please let me know, and I will do my best to help you understand, give more examples if I need to. Also, if you haven't already done so, feel free to check out my full courses in the links in the description.